Hey everyone, it's QuickyBaby, or should I be calling myself SickyBaby today, because I have picked up some niggling, annoying cold or flu. Hold on, I'm a man, right? I can call this man flu. I'm completely dying right now. I flew back from Minsk on Sunday. I was there for 5 days, but you may not have known that because I tried to make a few YouTube videos and then schedule them for release while I was away, so you probably didn't even think that I had gone anywhere. You thought, he's just sitting in his chair making videos for us. Well, that's kind of what I do, I guess. Anyway, I digress. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather today, so if I sneeze, if I cough, if I sniff, I'm not going to say sorry for it past this point. But I wanted to get you some content anyway today. So, on with the show. The Ranked Battles Season 1 was just released. The previous 2 seasons were what Wargaming are calling the beta seasons. And what have they learned from the beta seasons? Well, they've learned that I guess they want to make it grindy. Now, what do I mean grindy? Well, the previous beta season, i.e. beta season 2, required you to play very well rather than just play a lot of games, in my opinion, if you wanted to be able to get towards the gold rank. And that's because the system was chevron neutral. Just as many chevrons were removed from the game as they were added. However, now the system is chevron positive, with the top 3 players on the winning team gaining 2 chevrons, and then the next 8 players, i.e. players between, I guess, 4th place down to 10th place, will also gain a chevron, and then the 5 below them, players 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, will neither gain nor lose a chevron if they're on the winning team. However, the losing team, the top tank, can now gain a chevron even though they lost the battle, and the few tanks underneath them, I think from 4th to 5th place, will not lose a chevron even if they are on the losing team. And so what this means is that more chevrons are going into the system, and so if you just play enough battles and you're reasonable skill, or shall I say a player who is equally skilled as another player, if they just play a lot, they're going to eventually get higher. Now, whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I'll leave it up for you to decide. It just means that you're probably going to have to play a little bit more if you want to be able to get up into that gold or that silver rank. Now, should you play the Ranked Battles game mode? Well, firstly, if you're a casual World of Tanks player and you just like to go in and play your occasional tier 10 tank, but you're mostly more happy, shall we say, at the mid tiers or even the lower tiers, then no, this is probably not going to be the game mode for you. It is ruthless, and your mistakes will be punished. The enemy teams will be, well, especially towards the high ranks, massively better than you will experience in the random queue. So immediately take that into consideration. But if you do feel competitive and you do like your tier 10 tanks and you do like farming up your experience as much as you possibly can, then, well, there is some lucrative rewards to be able to get. Firstly, bonds. Bonds are used to get either directives or enhanced equipment, and the enhanced equipment can be really nice. We're talking about vents that give you 7.5% crew skills instead of 5% crew skills, and that's a real big advantage. Now, I'm not going to talk about, well, let me just quickly reiterate, I guess I will talk about it. I totally disagreed with the idea of enhanced equipment in World of Tanks because, frankly, only the better players are going to be able to get the bonds, at least in the quantities that you're needing, and you need like 5,000 bonds to get one piece of equipment. And so the better players are only going to be able to get the enhanced equipment, and so they're going to have an advantage, and I don't think that the best players need an advantage over other players. However, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to try and get all the bonds I can to enhance the equipment on my tanks to be able to gain an advantage, because I know that other players are going to do that, so I want to still remain competitive. So that's really the best thing that you can get from the ranked battles. However, you can also get quite a few other good things as well. Firstly, credit booster, personal reserves. There are 20 to gain if you can get to the maximum rank, which is 15. And that's like 40 hours, well, it is 40 hours of credit boosting, and that's absolutely massive. If you use that along with a premium account and you play a tier 8 premium tank, you could be easily making between 1 and 3 million credits every 1 and 2 million credits every single hour, depending on how well you play. It is super easy to make credits when you're running those boosters, and they're quite rare unless you want to be purchasing them in game, so this is a good opportunity for you to get your hands on them. Apart from that, I think you get 1 million credits for just reaching rank 15, which is quite nice, and there's also a few garage slots along the way and some other things as well. So if you can get to rank 15, it's definitely worth going for it. And so what I want to highlight in this video are my tips as to how to best use your time to give yourself the best chance of going up the ranks. Alright, well, number one, you need to understand that this game mode is not exactly about winning. It's not about doing everything that you can for your team to influence the battle. Because, frankly, even if you win the game and you don't finish in the top 10 spaces, you're not going to be gaining a chevron anyway. And so that means that you don't want to play too aggressively. You don't want to rush into a scenario. If you rush into a scenario and you get heavily punished, then it doesn't matter if you've had a real big impact. The game kind of skews the experience towards players who survive and just last in the battle. Even if you do less damage and you do less spotting and you get less kills, if you just survive the battle, then you're going to be getting a nice experience bonus just because you were in it for longer. So don't die early on. But also there's a fine line between that and also not getting into the top 10 in a winning game where everybody survives, right? You've got to be careful for that. So you want to try and find a balance between aggression and safety. And for me, that's always about, you can be on the front line, but always make sure that you fall back before the flank is lost. And don't ever go into any positions where you don't think that you're safely going to be able to fall back from, because that's a disaster. That's kind of how you lose a chevron, or even how you don't gain a chevron in a winning game. You're probably only going to be winning about 50 to 55% of your games, even if you're a very good player. If you're an exceptionally skilled player, you could probably win about 55 to 60% of your games. So of course, every single time that you win a battle and you don't finish in those top 10, it's an absolute disaster for yourself statistically. Then again, the new system rewarding 2 chevrons to the player who did finish top of the winning team, well, that's a real big bonus. That's going up pretty much half a rank all the way. You only have to do that like 20-30 times to be able to get up towards the top rank. Oh, good moment here against the Batchat. Nah, even with a broken gun, he's not going through there. That was a bit of a clutch moment. Happy to bounce that one. So it's all about surviving. You want to use your team as a distraction. But there's also one key thing that I want to highlight, and that is that if you are not spotting the tank that you are shooting, you're only going to be getting 50% of the experience. And that's one of the biggest mistakes that you can make. You have to be spotting the enemy team if you want to get high amounts of experience. And I guess for any of you who are watching this video who have no interest in playing the Ranked Battles game mode and you want to just maximize your experience in World of Tanks, you can still use that to your advantage. Always spot if you want to get ace tankers. Always spot if you want to just get more experience to be able to get your grind going. And so you probably want to be playing tanks with decent view range. Things that can help you achieve that are, for example, coated optics, vents, an exceptionally skilled commander with recon and situational awareness, or play a tank that has a dedicated radio operator and get yourself situational awareness as well. Brothers in Arms, clearly. And you're going to probably be firing so many premium rounds in this game mode anyway that you might as well use a premium food consumable, which will boost all of your skills by 10%, and that will actually boost your view range by 5%. So that's like half an equipment slot right there. And if you've got, I guess, fire extinguishing on some of your crew members, then it's not all that bad if you do get set on fire in the first place. And a driver skill like preventative maintenance, you get the idea that I'm going for here, or I'm trying to suggest. And that is that you need to do everything that you can to boost your tank's capacity, because really the difference between you climbing to rank 15 or you kind of hovering around the lower end of it is probably going to be that 5% that you would be able to gain from that. So a lot of you might be completely turned off by that, thinking, oh well, I'd never use premium consumables. Why would I play a game mode where I have to feel like I have to use premium consumables to be competitive? And yeah, I can understand that, and if that's the way that you feel, then fine, just don't play the game mode. However, remember that if you can manage to get to that rank 15, then you are going to be getting those 40 hours of plus 50% credits. And when I used a credit booster on my Object 140 yesterday, the first day of the season, and when I was playing it, I think I ended up making about between 1 and 2 million credits for playing for 2 to 4 hours with the credit boosters on. And I wasn't playing particularly well yesterday because I was really starting to feel rather unwell, as I still do now as I'm making this video. So those are my tips really for the Ranked Battles game mode. But there's also one big tip that I want to give you. I think the Ranked Battles are going to last for 3 weeks. Alright, so day 1 was probably the hardest day to be able to progress up. Now why is that? Because obviously you only play against your rank and then +1, -1, I believe, with your rank. And I think at the moment I was rank 1 or something. This is the second game I think I played in the ranked battles game mode. Now, at the moment, all of the super unicorns are kind of starting to push the ranks up to about kind of like 10 or 11 or whatever. If you've been playing super actively, I managed to get to rank 6 yesterday. And if I'd been playing a little bit today, I'd be hoping that maybe I could get up towards the 8 or the 10 area. But I'm not the best player in the world, especially at tier 10. And I'm still trying to find the balance between farming and playing aggressively and just playing safely and just surviving for long enough to be able to get those chevrons. It's not about getting a 60% win ratio. It's about making sure that you're always in the top 5 positions on your team when you're losing and also in the top 10 when you're winning. That is the goal. That is the game. And right now, well, we've basically been able to kind of dominate this game. 7,000 damage, and while it's not like we're playing against exceptionally skilled players, there are a couple on the enemy team. I could never be able to do this when I reached rank 5, for example. The idea of that, there's been a lot of bounces, for example, in this game. There's been a lot of tanks that have pushed up and completely ignored me. Artillery arguably was a little bit nice, didn't really take me out where I think he could have focused me down a little bit, but maybe the ridgeline was protecting me. All of those things get tougher and tougher as you go up the ranks. But what I'm trying to suggest here is that if the ranked battles game mode lasts for 3 weeks, eventually all of the super unicorns, the unicorns, and the players who, you know, get about 55% wins playing tier 10 on the random queue are going to reach rank 15, and they're going to be playing against each other in the second week and also in the third week. And so the people who are still remaining are going to be the ones who either have not been playing very much or have been playing very actively but have kind of reached where they're going to end up in the ranked battles game mode. And so if you don't have endless amounts of time to play tier 10 battles or endless amounts of patience to play tier 10 ranked battles game mode, then I thoroughly recommend that you invest some time in either week 2 or week 3, because there's no reset anymore. It's not resetting every week and you have to do the grind all over again. Just play in week 2 or week 3 even, and it's going to be significantly easier for you to be able to grind up and reach the high ranks. So just to highlight what's going on here, it's all about obviously working with your allies. I've suggested to them that they use some of their hit points. I think up here I said, you two have HP, please use it. And I suggest to them that if we draw, it's a loss anyway. We've got to win if we want to get those chevrons. I'm 99% certain that I'm going to finish number 1 even if we lose. So now it's an argument of, do I either gain 1 chevron now or do I gain 2 chevrons? And I guess the Badger and the T124 or even the artillery probably want to get the extra chevron as well. So you are encouraged to win, no doubt. And you don't get anything for a draw, so it's probably better to lose than it is to draw in this scenario. So I waited for the tank destroyers to push in because they could take a hit, and the worst thing that could happen would be for me to blitz around the corner and get caught out by the gorilla, who again could maybe run away and then get into a scenario where they could get an interrupting shot off on the Badger. And so it's about playing safely there. Oh god, sorry guys and girls. Oh my lord. Nearly managing to get through it. So it's about playing safely, waiting for your tanks to get into position, and just playing that supporting role. And if you could do that, then you're kind of getting through the game safely, right? Of course, now with 1 minute left, the pressure is on. You're wondering, what am I doing now? Well, I'm thinking the T124 is likely to be up here or likely to be over there. And so the only way that we don't win this now is if the T124 kills me. If he shoots the Badger, then that's not really the end of the world, because he won't reload in time for us to be able to probably get all of the cap points. So I slink my way in here behind the Badger. Where if the E4 had shot him, he would be able to survive the vast majority of the times, and then I could probably hide behind his wreck to finish off the game. Whereas the Badger probably isn't going to be able to hide behind me, huh? Next up, you might be wondering, what are my most recommended tanks for the ranked battles game mode? Well, in the end, it all comes down to preference, but remember, this is all about consistency. And so for me personally, I'm always going to pick a medium tank or a faster heavy to be consistent. So something like an Object 140, an Object 430U. I really liked playing the Bat Chatillon last last season, but I'm not so sure with the map rotation now that that's such a good idea, unless you're an awesome Batchat player, of course. For me, tank destroyers do very well in a losing game, but in a winning game, they can struggle unless they've got some speed. Maybe you want to play something like the new Object 268 version 4, or even something like a Foch B, because that's always going to be able to at least get one magazine out, and quite often, if you're able to do 2,000 damage and pick up a kill, that is enough to be able to gain a chevron in a winning game. And in a losing game, the Foch B might unload multiple magazines and get that experience up, be able to at least not lose, or hopefully finish number 1 and gain a chevron, right? I think other tanks that could be exceptional are, for example, the Super Conqueror, the T110E5, although I think that those ones might be on the slow end of what I would personally want to play. And so if you've got any of the Chinese heavy tanks like the WZ-111-5A or the 113, now that those things have got 7 degrees of gun depression either on the front of the 5A or the side of the 113, I think those might be great tanks as well. However, in the end, I think it all comes down to personal preference. You want to have a flexible tank that you can use to adapt to the situation. I think speed is of the essence, because if you go to a flank and it gets lost, you've got to fall back and play the back line. Don't ever get caught at the front, and so the really slow tanks like the Mouse and the Type 5 Heavy, they're really not going to work out unless you clearly think through where you need to be taking the vehicle. And while I think those kind of tanks do very well in a close game or even a game that's lost, I just think that sometimes in an easy win, they can quite often end up in the bottom 5 of the winning team and don't get a chevron anyway. So a decent round here for the Object 140, 7,200 damage, 1,274 damage upon detection, and 4 kills, gets us 1,377 base experience points. I didn't fire that many heat rounds here, mostly my armor piercing rounds, and so with a credit booster we make 101,000 credits profit. Not too shabby, although this isn't going to be happening every game. When I got up towards the higher ranks, I think I was probably averaging about 2,000 damage, but that was still enough to get to rank 6 on the first day, and so that's what I'm going to be aiming for. Hopefully a little bit more, hopefully when I start to feel better. But nevertheless, I hope this video was useful to any of you who are going to be dabbling in the ranked battles game mode, and I wish all of you the best of luck. And if I want to give you a final piece of advice, it's to not take it too seriously and always try and be objective. I just read on the Reddit, the World of Tanks Reddit post today, somebody who was complaining that he was losing every single game. And then with all due respect, I noticed that I think he was doing 1,200 average damage. Well, tanks have 2,000 hit points on average at tier 10, right? This game mode is grueling and it will expose poor play. So the first thing that you need to do is accept that you are the only constant in all of your games, and how far you get is how much of an impact and an influence you can have in them. And as soon as you accept that as a base, then you can start to make micro adjustments in your play and practice different maps and different positions to be able to climb and improve. So that's it for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, but if you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Let me know in the comments if you have been trying out the ranked battles game mode, and do you think that season 1 and the way that the chevrons works were better than the beta season 1 and 2? And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.